Imagine being put on trial because you think. Not because you committed a crime, but simply because you asked a question. This is exactly what happened over 2,000 years ago to Socrates in Athens, the city that prided itself on being the cradle of democracy, the center of freedom, and the beacon of thought in the ancient world. However, at a decisive moment, it stood against one of its greatest minds. Not because he tried to destroy the state or called for violence, but because he did something far more dangerous. He made people think. Socrates walked the streets of Athens, talking to the youth, merchants, politicians, and priests. Not to teach them answers, but to ask them questions. Questions that seemed simple on the surface but were profound in their essence. Questions that exposed ignorance, revealed contradictions, and shook false confidence. He would ask, what is justice? What is virtue? What is goodness? Every answer he received was met with another question, until the person before him reached a shocking moment of realizing they did not know. In a world built on the pretension of knowledge, this moment was dangerous. Because a person who doubts cannot be easily controlled, and a person who thinks does not accept ready-made truths. This is where the fear began, not of Socrates as a person, but of his influence, his ability to awaken minds and his impact on the youth, who began to see the world differently. Thus came the charges, corrupting the minds of the youth and disrespecting the city's gods. But these were not the real charges. They were merely a cover for something deeper. Socrates had become a threat to the established order, a threat to the idea that some possess absolute truth. When a society reaches a stage where it fears the question, it begins looking for a way to silence the one asking it. And so, Socrates' trial began within a democratic court before a body of citizens, in a scene that appeared just from the outside but concealed a deep conflict between thought and authority. Socrates defended himself not with submission or pleading, but with the same method he had always lived by, asking questions. He spoke with confidence, even defiance, insisting he had not corrupted anyone but had tried to make people better, and that his faith in the gods ran deeper than his accusers claimed. At the same time, he did not try to please the court or win its sympathy. He did not lower his voice or change his tone, as if he knew the case was bigger than a mere verdict, that what was happening was a true test of his commitment to truth. He could have survived. He could have requested exile or paid a fine, and his friends were ready to pay it for him. Even escape was possible. But Socrates refused all of that, because he understood that fleeing or compromising meant admitting guilt, and he did not see himself as guilty. Instead, he saw himself as fulfilling a mission, the search for truth, even if the price was his life. And so, the verdict was delivered: death. Not by a sword or on a battlefield, but by a cup of poison that he himself would drink. It was a quiet scene that carried a profound meaning. A person can be killed physically, but their idea does not die. Perhaps it only truly begins at that moment. Socrates drank the poison calmly, with steadfastness and without fear. What mattered to him was not his life, but what his life represented. From that moment on, he was transformed from a man into a symbol of freedom of thought and the eternal struggle between the mind and authority. But the real question is not what happened to Socrates. It is what his story means to us. This story did not end in Athens. It has repeated itself throughout history in different forms and across different civilizations. Every time a new idea emerges, some authority fears it, leading to its suppression, the silencing of its proponents, or their defamation. It is as if humanity has not yet learned the lesson that thought cannot be killed, and its suppression does not lead to stability but to the opposite, to stagnation, regression, and the beginning of collapse. Civilizations do not fall suddenly. They begin to fall when they fear questions, when they fight difference, and when they prefer comfort over truth. That is why the trial of Socrates remains one of the most important moments in history. It reveals something simple yet terrifying. The most dangerous enemy to any system is not violence, but thought. And the most dangerous thing a person can do, in the eyes of those who are afraid, is simply to ask. In the end, the question remains open, not about Socrates, but about us. Has anything actually changed? Or are we, in different ways, still living the same story, putting ideas on trial without even realizing it? If this story made you think, share it with someone who deserves to think too. Subscribe to Chronosaga, because every era has a story, and every story has a lesson.